show, you can go up to half hour later.
Okay.
So if you're scheduled for an hour, you can go up to 85 minutes, well, 90 minutes. And if you're scheduled for night, hey, this is Sology. We're loose. You know, there's no rules here. Yeah.
Yay.
Let me pull up the. You should be able to pull up comments from every one of the. Let me just find it. Here it is. Oh, there it is. Yeah. All right. Let's see. I don't see anybody. Oh, here they come. Here they come.
3 people. 5.
Yeah, they're coming. And there
Is
is
it from all platforms?
This is all of our premium. Okay, let me just announce it to everybody so everybody knows. Okay, we got 11 people in the house. Let me tell you how this rolls. This is SologyNetwork.com. We were told on March the 1st to get the hell off social media, that it was going to be deconstructing, and it scared the living shit out of me. But we've made that jump, and now here we are, tears. 120 days later. And we got a lot of great stuff coming. So we've got, I think, 15 new shows that we're coming on every week. Some are coming on every 2 weeks, and a few of them coming on once a month for now. But most of them are coming on every week. And one of those is the Ascension Records, the huMAN Experience, hosted by our beautiful sister, Irina. And I'm real excited to have her here because she represents the type of energy that has been in the background for so long, and that it makes up about 85% of SologyNetwork.com, and that is the mother's energy, the space in between. If you look at the atom, it's 99.7% emptiness, but that's really the space that is the mother, that contains everything. So we're really happy to have this show and all the other shows coming on board. I'm just giving a quick introduction, and I'm going to turn this over to our beautiful hostess and her beautiful guest, and step away. All right. Have a great show. Take as long as you want.
Yeah. Thank you, Doc. Thank you so much. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to our first show. The name and format was really appeared very quickly. Once Todd had sent out an email, as soon as I hit the OK button, I want to participate, everything came. Our dear brother Franco is a big part of it. Just yesterday night we had a big discussion, and basically I was shown the whole timeline, how the show will develop. So at the beginning, we'll be inviting brothers, especially the divine masculine, the awakened brothers. It will be a platform for them to step up and share their gifts, and a really safe, Sology style, open, comfortable container. And from then on, we'll see how it will develop. And let's welcome our first guest. Here is Nikki. Hello, Nikki. And how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
That is just great. A bit of backup maybe. Basically, we had a chat yesterday. We figured out that we both come from Bulgaria. Actually, we were both born in Bulgaria, and we left the country almost at the same time. So we've been abroad, but he went back to Bulgaria. I don't know how often, but at the moment he's in Bulgaria, and here he discovers this really ancient lands, extremely energetically potent and powerful place. He was just talking to me about some extremely ancient pyramids and so on. But now I hand out the stick to him, and welcome one more time, and we're all ears. Please share your wonderful and magical journey, really.
Thank you for having me, and good to be here with all of you for the purpose of sharing and learning from each other on this wonderful journey that each of us is on, and individually and together. Obviously, a lot of changes going on. So my Facebook profile is Shambhu Heart. My spiritual name is Acharya Shambhu. Acharya means teacher, and that's a title that was given to me by my spiritual teacher. 6-7 years ago in India. My spiritual journey began very early on, but the longest part of my spiritual life has been embracing a Kundalini sadhana practice. Sadhana means practice. That I started in 2002 in Berkeley, California, where I was lucky enough to go to school. I did my master's degree there in business after leaving Bulgaria 10 years before that or so. So I've committed my life over the last 21 years now to this particular practice. And the root guru of my lineage is Bhagavan Nityananda of Ganeshpuri. He was known in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, one of the big saints in India. And as my spiritual practice evolved over time, we discovered that a lot of the essence of these practices, these Kundalini practices, comes from the relationship between consciousness and energy. Consciousness being Shiva in that tradition, and energy Shakti, and the various manifestation of Shakti. And I'm wearing this T-shirt on purpose. This is very traditional Bulgarian embroidery. That it's one of the many things that Bulgaria is famous for. And I just came back this weekend from the Bagpipe Festival in Bulgaria, where in the Rhodope Mountains, which is this mystical mountains in Bulgaria, every year they have bagpipe performers compete with each other. And just the whole place, you're on top of the mountain, and it's 360-degree views of the mountains. It was an ancient Thracian sacred place, and you feel this resonance of the bagpipe and the people, and just Divine Mother is just there. The Shakti, that energy is so palpably present there. And I had disconnected from my own roots, from my Bulgarian roots. When I grew up here, I never felt like I belong here. I was very sensitive to energy, and the culture wasn't conducive to energy sensitive people like myself. And I left. And the spiritual journey took me to a few teachers until I found my teacher in Berkeley, California in 2002, as I said earlier. And it's very interesting. My wife, daughter, and I moved to the Hawaiian island of Kauai 6 years ago.
Yeah,
Then that's when I started teaching after going through a teacher training program, rigorous teacher training program with my teacher. And clearly it's a very powerful spiritual place, and I consider it an incredible blessing to be there. I'm there every day. I wake up, I'm profoundly grateful on Kauai, and I'm dialing from Bulgaria now because Mother Bulgaria started calling me back in. And this show and what I want to talk about today is the spiritual places and spiritual energy latent in Bulgaria that is just beginning to come up. And the way it happened with me was living on Kauai. I love walking on the beach almost every day when the weather is nice. I take the dog for a walk, and I can walk on the beach for 1 to 2 hours, and then I have a place that I like. I sit down and look at the ocean. It was given to me by my spiritual teacher. There was some feedback. And it was about 3 years ago. I was meditating on the beach on Kauai. And it's so easy to get really still, really quiet in yourself. It just happens naturally on Kauai, anywhere you sit. And I dropped into deep stillness. There was no thought, just complete presence and just being. And at some point, this voice told me, go back to Bulgaria because that's where it all started. And I was like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? I had no idea. I never associated Bulgaria with any spirituality or spiritual traditions or anything like this. And this voice all of a sudden tells me, go back to Bulgaria because that's where everything started. I got hung up on the word everything. I mean, this energy everywhere, the spiritual places everywhere. What's so unique about Bulgaria? I had no clue. And I was like, okay, but clearly that voice wasn't I was in such a deep place. It was clear that that voice wasn't my imagination. It wasn't my mind trying to create a story. And I let it go. I always, when I get messages like this, whatever the message is, I let it go and let things unfold on their own way. And very interesting, a few days later, maybe a week later, maybe it was Facebook or somewhere else, I saw a post on an article about the womb cave in Bulgaria,
Well,
as in
yeah,
the womb,
divine
as in the mother.
alignment. Yeah.
And initially I didn't make much of it, but then I was like, wait a second. I remember the message that I heard the week before or a few days before. And I started looking into it, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. Clearly, that's the first place I'm meant to visit when I go back to Bulgaria for the summer to spend time with my family, my brother, and my parents. So last summer, that's what I did. The second week I was in Bulgaria, I went to the womb cave. I found it. It wasn't very easy to find. And it's above a town called Kyrgyzstan in Bulgaria. You have to hike into it. It's a 600-meter elevation. It was a hard hike. It took about it can take hour and a half. Took me 35 minutes because I grew up in Bulgaria and I'm like a mountain goat. I move very fast in the mountain. And I go there with my brother, who's not a believer or anything, and he's like, "What are we doing here? This is hard work just to climb up and visit this shitty place, this cave. You know, this is just a bunch of rocks." And we went there, and the cave pulled me in, and I'll show you a picture in a second. But my brother was just being such a nuisance, and at some point I gave up and was like, "Okay, let's go down to the mountain hut. I'll leave you there. Come back the next day, sunrise on my own." So the next day, I left an hour before sunrise and I hiked into the darkness, and I was at the cave at sunrise. And it's really hard to describe with words how sacred that place is. So as you walk in, you're seeing this 60-foot long cave, about 20 meters long, probably shaped and extended by human hands. This is kind of like this was the closer image, and this is the image you see as you walk in, right? I mean, basically, it has the perfect shape of a vagina, right? And
Yeah.
really, it was a natural opening that probably over time was shaped by humans. And as you walk into the cave, first of all, you're tired from the hike, and it's a pilgrimage. It's just the fact of climbing up to get to it. You're just dropping all your ego. You're just focusing on walking and not stumbling on the rocks, etc., etc. And you walk in, and it pulls you in, and pulls you in towards the bottom of the cave, where this one little point, Bindu point, Bindu means still point in Sanskrit, and this is some of the terminology I relate to because of the tradition I've been studying over the last 21 years. It just pulls you in. All thought stops. You drop inside yourself. And that journey from the opening of the cave to the end of the cave, which is also the beginning of the cave, that Bindu point, is the journey back home, where this body becomes one single point. I'm in the process of writing my first book right now, and it's on stillness. And I have 70, 80 pages in the book are about Bindu. And Bindu is that point that's the blueprint. And to access that blueprint, that still point, we need to be perfectly still. And literally, we have to miniaturize ourselves. Nanotechnology in spirituality, right? We have to become so small until we almost become nothing. We become this single point. And in perfect stillness, you go inside the single point. And you realize that point contains everything. So you can, the way I think about this experience is it's one movement, the movement back home. And then as you face out and look at the entrance to the cave, you are overwhelmed by the beauty of nature. That's the reverse movement, how the Bindu becomes this wonderful expression, endless expression of the Mother, Divine Mother, of her Shaktis. And I'm trying to pull up a picture to show you. As you look out, you see this, and I apologize, I wasn't able to use the right browser to be able to share the screen on my computer.
No, it's visible. I think it's good.
You can get at least some sense of this.
Yeah.
And right at the entrance, there's a little ledge where you can sit down and meditate. And I'm looking out, and you're so overwhelmed by the beauty of nature. The mind again stops, but it stops for a different reason. So looking in, you get absorbed in the Bindu, that still point from which everything manifested. And as you exit and into creation, and you're sitting on the ledge, literally, the mind stops for a different reason. And that reason is wonder. You're just awestruck by the beauty of creation that automatically stops. In Sanskrit, in Kashmir Shaivism, which is my tradition, that's called mudra, means gesture. This is, you sit down and meditate, and we put whatever fingers we use in a variety of mudras. That's the lowest level of mudra. It's a physical gesture. But mudra is also a posture of consciousness, of awareness. And there's something called Chakita mudra. Chakita means wonder. This is the mudra of wonder. You're so overwhelmed by wonder and the beauty of creation and the beauty of the creation of Divine Mother that the mind stops. So that's the external movement. And the very first time I sat there, when I was with my brother, I sat down, I closed my eyes, and the heart center lit up and started just like opening up like this. Automatically. I did not have to do anything. I did not have to think about the heart, to meditate on the heart chakra. I did not have to think about focusing my breath or doing any practice. It happened automatically. Every second of it just happened automatically. So there she is, the Divine Mother, in this supposedly lifeless rock place in the form of a cave. How can rock be alive? But you could cut the energy with a knife there. She was so present. She was outside in nature, expressed as trees and the sun and the air and the wind and the sky and everything. And she was right here in the heart. So you're like, holy moly, she is everywhere. And wherever she is, whether she's in a rock or in the sky, in the plants, or in this heart, in this piece of flesh, is the same essence, just expressed differently. And it was such an incredible experience that the ancient people left to us these highly activated, highly energized places that we can go in and reconnect and have these insights. And then when we go back into the world, I work in the software industry. I have a full-time job. I have a wife. I have a daughter. I teach meditation 4 times a week. I have all kinds of hobbies. Tennis. I do water gardening. I'm growing lotuses. I'm growing water lilies. I'm landscaping. I do all these things. And how can you carry that experience in everything we do? It's an external expression of what's already inside of us. But we've been so disconnected from our true nature that we need these places. And that's why this voice told me, go there, because that's where everything began. So now, couple of quite I could talk about this cave for another 2 hours and everything that happened there.
We can
But
go
let me
wherever you want.
but let me
Just
share
keep on
one
going.
interesting. So womb in Bulgarian is utroba, Utroba. Now, the word utre in Bulgarian means tomorrow. But what's interesting is the word utro means the morning, the first part of the day. So utroba in Bulgarian literally means the first light, the first part of the day. It's the birthplace, right? So as I'm reconnecting with my own culture, and I'm discovering that the Asian people ingeniously embedded spiritual secrets in the language itself, in the words itself. I'm not talking about a sentence. I'm talking about the
Yeah,
word itself. And as I've been
yeah.
studying Sanskrit over the last 5, 6 years, I'm discovering the exact same thing. So the word utroba, meaning womb in English, in itself embeds a profound spiritual teaching and secret. The womb is the light of consciousness. She generates life, so manifestation can happen. Manifestation can see the light of day, literally in Bulgarian. Just amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And the second thing that blew my socks off, knocked me out literally. It was the last time I was there last year on my own. Before a few people from my meditation group in Europe joined me. I have a little group in Belgium and the Netherlands, and a few of them joined me to explore these places in Bulgaria. And they had exactly the same experience as me. So it wasn't some crazy Bulgarian that's suddenly becoming nationalistic and concocting all these experiences in these supposedly sacred places. These people from totally different countries had the exact same experiences, or different and profound, deeply opening experiences. So before they came in, I was there the last time on my own. And at the end of my meditation, of my practice, she spoke to me, the cave, as the Divine Mother. And she told me, get up and start singing. And I'm like, I can't save my life to sing a note. I just cannot. I'm horrible at music. So there am I, trying to sing or chant or whatever. And the message was that the acoustics of the cave, the way it was shaped, was by design. And as the body is, I forget, 80+% water, I'm sitting there and chanting, and she responds. I say something. I'm chanting Om or a few Sanskrit mantras that I love and do every day. And she responds. And that resonance pervades every cell of your body. And you just tear up and you cry and you're just gone. I mean, you can feel her in every part of your body. Um, After I went back to Kauai, I reviewed some of the recordings I did on my iPhone of me singing and feeling the resonance of the cave. And I was able to find 1.5 seconds of a sound that wasn't me talking or the birds. There were lots of birds there, or you're hearing the chirping of the birds. It was just the pure sound of the cave. So I used a sound software called Audacity. It's an open source software. I took these 1.5 seconds and I extended them. I stretched them. There's a function called pulse stretch or something like this. And then I stretched 1.5 seconds into 15 seconds or something like this, and then I put the 15 seconds on a loop. So I'd like it to play you to. I'd like to
It
play
will be,
it for
yeah.
a couple of minutes. So I invite you to just close your eyes Just close your eyes and let's see if the technology is going to cooperate here. Just close your eyes and imbibe. Let these sounds penetrate you and see what happens. Hopefully the sound
Oh
came
yeah,
through fine.
it was perfect actually. Wow, amazing! It was such a Kundalini energy flow. Powerful.
Yeah, it's very purifying, and it's the sound of the womb. Mm, it's the sound
Revolution.
of it's really wonderful. You can go on YouTube these days, and I don't know how they do it, but they record sounds of planets spinning. Right? They can record the sound of different planets or the background sound of the cosmos. And that's what it sounds like. It's
Amazing.
um, it's the power of consciousness of Shiva expressing himself as Shakti, which is not separable from him, and how the one can become the many. And from the point of view of the sound, the unstruck sound becomes this infinite, ever powerful emanation of that consciousness that first is Om and then becomes E, U, and all these sounds just create the universe as we know it and other universes that we don't know of, don't know about.
I don't remember. Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that this place will knock your socks off. She will teach you profound lessons that are in yourself, that are embedded in that place in variety of ways. Whether you're being pulled into the bindu, or whether you're being pulled out into the Chakita mudra, the mudra of wonder, and your mind freezes, or whether she just breaks your heart open, or whether she just blows you away with the sound of her womb, where we all came from.
Wonderful. What I find fascinating is that actually you live on Kauai, which everybody knows that it's extremely powerful, energetic place. It's strongly connected to the heart chakra, and that from there you were told to go back to Bulgaria, which is I find absolutely fascinating that you had to go back to Bulgaria. That
There is
is
a connection
absolutely
between Kauai and Bulgaria that I don't understand fully yet, or at all, I should say. But there is something. And this experience that I spent the last 30 minutes talking about was one of many. So subsequent to that, I I discovered many more womb caves in Bulgaria. This was the one that she opened up a doorway for me, and she brought in the right people to take me to those.
mm, yeah.
Um, And before I can start sharing a little bit more about the other moon caves in Bulgaria, what became clear to me was that when you think about the history of Bulgaria, most recently there was democracy, before there was communism, before that was fascism, before that Bulgaria was part of the Ottoman Empire for 500 years, before there was Christianity, then there was like the Bulgars mixed with the Slavic people, before that were the only Thracians. There were a lot of changes in religious cultures. There was like Christianity, then Islam, then Christianity came back again. And in that shuffle over the centuries, over the last couple of millennia, all of these ancient places got lost and almost forgotten. But what's happening now, they're being rediscovered because they're calling us back calling us back in. And the other reason is because they need it in terms of this cycle that the earth and humanity is going through. And what it became clear to me was that I've gone to India, I've gone to Kauai, and a lot of the places, for example, in India, you go into a cave. I happened to meditate in one of the caves where Gorakshanath meditated and taught his students. And Gorakshanath, one of the founders of one of the biggest and most ancient spiritual orders in India, the Nath order. And in that particular cave, the pujari there, he appreciated my earnestness and he initiated me into the Nath order. But everywhere there was some sort of association with a lineage or a particular tradition. What I find unique about these places in Bulgaria that they're archetypal. There's no, oh, this is Shakti, or this is this, or this is Mary Magdalene, or this particular Divine Mother, or whatever. These are archetypal places that energetically feel incredibly ancient. Incredibly ancient. Almost go back to the beginning of time. And as I was beginning to tune into that resonance of this timelessness and that sense of infinity when I sat at these places in Bulgaria, that's when the initial message that this whole journey started from, that this voice that told me that it all started in Bulgaria, began to make at least a little bit of sense. And I'll explain a little bit more about that. If you pull up a map and look at Bulgaria, Bulgaria is kind of between Africa, Europe, and Asia. It has a very central place.
Yeah.
So from geographically, from physical point of view, that kind of like also makes sense. Then the third piece of information was that there are legends that I learned from the local people. I was lucky enough to find local guides to show me these places. Otherwise, it would be impossible to find. Just impossible. They spoke about the ancient people in Bulgaria. They were incredibly sophisticated. They had language, but they had no need to write it. Actually, they would write it and immediately erase it because everything was here. That memory, telepathy, everything, they could communicate with them between themselves and nature, but they still had a language. And they found a few tablets, so they know there was a language that supposedly that was transmitted to the Egyptians. The early Egyptian script was based on the Thracian script, the tablets that they found in Bulgaria, and they've dated both of them. And the ones here in Bulgaria predate the early Egyptian script by 1,000 years. And there's books about that that I can point you out to. So, and they were very in tune with the cosmos. And with the precession of the equinox, when the axis of the Earth started shifting, they started going east. So they went to Persia, then they went to India. Right? That's what the legends say here, right? There isn't archaeology or facts that they can point to confirm that, but it's part of the legends at least. Then the fourth piece of information that I came across a few months after was I noticed one day on YouTube a channel called the Bulgarian Pyramid Project or something like this, and they have a website. If you Google Bulgarian Pyramids Project would come up. And He's either American, British, Canadian, Australian. He's an English speaker. You can watch the YouTube videos, and he has mapped all the megalithic places in Bulgaria, and he has discovered all kinds of pyramids that, at least according to him, he dates to 10 to 15 million years ago. Incredible. Even if he's off by whatever 95%, we're still talking about human intelligence, our prior incarnations of humanity that were highly evolved and completely in tune with the cosmos. And we didn't need Facebook or Instagram or cars or anything like this. And there are dozens, hundreds of these places in Bulgaria. Amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely freaking amazing. So for me, on this journey of exploration, it was one thing after the other. But to kind of go back on this theme to about the womb caves. When I grew up, I was crazy about crystals. I grew up in a mining town, and one of my favorite pastimes when I was a child was to go and look for rocks and crystals. And I met, through this chain of events, two guys in southern Bulgaria in the Rhodope Mountains. That's what they do. They go and hunt for crystals. And I ended up buying quite a few from them and all of that. And they took me into the mountains. And they told me, we're going to take you to this ancient Thracian site. Thracians were the tribes that inhabited Bulgaria before the Bulgars came, and created this mix of a nation. But actually, we're mostly Thracian, according to DNA studies. And the Thracians, they had different tribes, and they were incredibly evolved people. And there's mentions of the Roman historians that put the Thracians in line with Indian people, etc., etc. Their challenge was very tribal, and they had several different tribes. They didn't have this unity to bring them into worldwide renown, if you will. The oldest processed gold treasure was found in Bulgaria. I just saw it live in the town of Panaguriste 2 weeks ago. And it's incredible. It's the first golden treasure in the world, processed gold to that extent. The beauty of it is just cosmic. I mean, it's incredible. You can just Google Bulgarian golden treasure and come up. So these people were incredible, and I was taken into this town that even archaeologists haven't been to. That's what I was told by my friends. And we spent half a day exploring the town. And towards the end of the walk, they took me to a well that's still functioning. It still has water. And the top of the well was just incredible carving in terms of the way they shaped it, the way they protected it, and it's still functioning. So I drank from a well that my ancestors, tens of thousands of years ago, maybe, have been drinking water from. And as we were exiting, they said, "Oh, by the way, you're one of those crazies, so you might appreciate this cave that's here." So imagine this. They start taking me to this cave. And just before you enter the cave, there's a really long rock like this. And each piece of the rock looked like a vertebra. So there's like a vertebrae after vertebrae after vertebrae. And at the end of this rock formation, you could clearly see the head of a cobra. So there you have a straight snake. And I was like, holy shit. Excuse my language.
Oh, no worries.
Kundalini is my practice. It's about the snake that's caught up, and the snake, of course, being a representation of the Divine Mother. So we go past the rock formation that just looks like a straight cobra. And then the cave is right behind it. Very interesting. And guess what the cave looked like? It's a double womb cave. So the first cave I showed you was single womb cave. This one is a double womb cave, and the two wombs like meet in the beginning, and then they diverge. So you just sit there, and again you're blown away. But the feeling there was very different from the single womb cave. Here you were just energized. It felt like you start levitating. It's just like you just getting charged with energy. But that wasn't the end of it. Right next to the double womb cave, there's what they call the triangle cave. Against the rock face, there was a base, and then right here there was a massive stone slab that did not look natural to me. It's almost somebody lifted it and put it there on purpose. So I climb up there and I sit. I close my eyes, and immediately, similar to the first cave, a process begins to happen. You see, all these places were activated with specific processes. The first one was just for the Divine Mother, just to break your heart open and for you to see her everywhere. This one was about the two Kundalinis, the upper and the lower Kundalini. The lower Kundalini being me, Irina, you, everybody. The individuation of that cosmic Kundalini, that creative energy, that creates. And the upper Kundalini being the Father, Shiva. And as I close my eyes, the two Kundalinis automatically started merging in the center of the head. The lower Kundalini rising, the upper Kundalini descending from the upper Dvadashanta, Urdhva Dvadashanta, 12 finger widths above the head, and merging in the center of the head. And that happened. I could see the geometry of it, the process of it happening, and all the colors. It was just divine. It was automatic. Automatic. And as the process was over, it was done, I look up at the stone slab that was basically the ceiling of this cave. And guess what I see? Bunch of crystals put in a matrix. They were all different. And that's how they activated this place. That's how they embedded this knowledge in a matrix of crystals. Unfortunately, some of them have been chopped off and taken away by people who just can't appreciate the sacredness of this place. But there was still enough left to continue holding that energy of that particular process. As I walked away from the place, I felt so powerful. I felt like I could do anything. I could do anything, which is our birthright. We're little Shivas, little pieces of consciousness pretending that we're separate, walking around the planet, right? And we have this incredible power in each of us. And that's what this place showed me, that each of us is incredibly powerful. We can create the next Earth. We can imagine it. We can visualize it as the darkness clearly struggling and kicking and screaming is dying, right? As humanity goes through the next cycle of the play of consciousness, and we're coming out of the darkness and hopefully soon into the light. But guess what? The story isn't over. So I'm taken to a place. Many of you might have heard of Orpheus, the famous flute player, who was worshipped by the Romans and the Greeks and the Bulgarians. And this was new information to me. All of this is just completely new to me. I'm a spiritual baby in terms of like what's available here in Bulgaria. So Orpheus, he he lived in southeast Bulgaria, in a mountain range in Bulgaria called the Rhodope Mountains, which is incredibly magical. Everybody who goes there, whether you're has spiritual inclinations or whether you're like a regular person that's not attuned to these things, they feel incredibly well there. There's just some sort of warmth and resonance that they have not encountered anywhere else. And that's where the Bagpipe Festival was last weekend that I mentioned earlier in the conversation. And Orpheus lived around 1500 BC. That's before Buddha, that's before Jesus, that's before the great tantric masters in India from the 8th to the 13th century, etc., etc. And he thought that each of us is a divine spark. He got it. And he taught 4 ways for each of us to rediscover that our innate nature, that we're divine sparks. One of them, which was music, and hence the flute player. He became known as being the flute player, walking in the Rhodope Mountains, singing in joy and worshiping the Divine Mother, that divine sparkness in each of us. What's really interesting is that's conversations I had with one of the locals. This really small village in the Rhodope Mountains called Tatul, Tatul. Just a few houses, nothing extraordinary about it. After a storm in 2001, 2002, just 20 years ago, a massive walnut tree that was on top of a little hill just fell after the storm. And what they saw was clearly some human activity. There was some architecture that got exposed. So over the last 20 years, and actually they call him the Bulgarian Indiana Jones, Nikolai Ovcharov. I'm also Nikolai. He excavated the whole hill, and what they found was the tomb of Orpheus, and they're absolutely positive that's his tomb. And I gotta say, I spent a few days there in deep meditation, in deep inner work. That place is absolutely cosmic. The resonance there, I cannot even describe in words. Definitely brings you in deep inside, but there's a flavor to it, and I want to go back again in the next few weeks or so to tune into it deeper. It's absolutely magical. Let me see if I can pull up a picture. And guess what? So I go there, I visit the place, but then I meet another guide, and he tells me about this triple womb cave. So we talked about the single womb cave, double womb cave, and he started talking to me about this triple womb cave. And I'm like, where is it? And he's like, well, it's by the tomb of Orpheus. And I'm like, okay, I was just there. Nobody told me about it. I didn't see it. Where is it? And he was like, buy me lunch and I'll take you. I'm like, okay. I bought him a nice lunch. And the triple womb cave was very well hidden. It was only about 100, 200 meters from the tomb of Orpheus on the side of the mountain. And I don't want to disclose its location because it's very sacred. Women go there. It's the cave of the Divine Mother. Women who want to get pregnant or have trouble getting pregnant go there and they spend the night there. So if you're meant to go there, you'll find that. But I don't want to disclose its particular location because it's very sacred for the Bulgarian people and because people use it all the time. But when I was there during the day usually there's nobody. But sometimes people spend a night there, women spend a night there. I had trouble entering the cave because it's not because there was an obstacle or something. Just the energy was so powerful, so
Yeah.
palpable. I literally had to do like this and try to make it inside it. And it's very magical, absolutely stunning. And it was a very different experience there. As I sat down and I closed my eyes, in the beginning of the conversation, I mentioned the Sadguru of my lineage is Bhagavan Nityananda of Ganeshpur, India. He was considered Avadut. He was basically Shiva incarnate. He descended as a beam of light immediately. And he basically, by his mere presence, the message was, you're at the right place. You need to be here, and you're here. Now get quiet and do the work.
What an
Go deep.
activation. Yeah.
Do the work. Let me just pull up. So this is the tomb of Orpheus at sunrise.
Yeah.
You can
It's
see on the
visible.
rock how the tomb has a half circle shape,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
then his ashes, I think, were laid. There's another carving there. Basically, it's a stone. It's a stone grave. And then this is at sunrise. The sun comes up at this semicircle, and then I'm looking at his tomb, and I'm like, that bastard knew it. He was completely aligned with everything. And that's how he designed his own grave and his own resting place, to be completely in line with the sun and the cosmic and everything. Just
Wow.
absolutely. And what I've shared so far is probably 15-20% of what I experienced in Bulgaria last summer for over a period of 2.5 months. One more thing I'll mention, and I'm going to shut up, is another place I found. It's called huMAN. It's an observatory, and it looks like Stonehenge. They literally carved this circle in the rocks with big, large standing stones. Underneath that stone, underneath those cliffs, there's another womb cave. And that womb cave was as large as the first one, a little bit shorter. And when I try to stand there and record videos, when I checked my phone, and I'm pretty sure I pressed the record button and I pressed it again to finish a few times and all of that, none of it came up.
Yeah.
None of it. So the message was, I'm not ready for those lessons that are held in that particular womb cave. She doesn't want me to share her location, etc., etc. Right? There's a lot of threads I still have to explore, but the point is, in that particular place, I discovered. I mean, not me. It was always there. The Sufis. I had no idea that the
Oh.
Sufis had strong presence in Bulgaria. And there's a Sufi sanctuary right next to this place that I just described. And they have two rooms. One of the rooms is, I think it was like 5 or 6 graves of Sufi men. And what was interesting to me, the gravestones were these pillars that look like Shiva lingams. And we all know that the Sufis are about the central channel, and they would spin and dance around the central channel
So,
and then
yeah.
spin themselves in. So the gravestones were Shiva lingams, basically, those incredible pillars. And you just sit there. I mean, they left plenty of spiritual energy and liberating energy. It just knocks your sock off. And what was also incredibly interesting is that right next to the room where these 5 or 6 Sufis were buried, they had another room with supposedly relics of. I'm not very familiar with Islam, but I think it was Fatima. She was a cousin of Muhammad, or his wife, or the wife of his brother, or something like this. But supposedly she was an incredible saint, very powerful saint in Sufism and Islam. And in that particular room, the legend has it that there's a relic from her body, either one of her fingers or something like this. And I sat there on my own, and to get there, for some reason they had the door was really low, so you kind of had to crawl in and go there. Clearly, just reminded to leave your ego at the door and just go with pure heart inside. I the love I experienced there, it cannot be described. It just cannot be described. I always tear up when I think about this.
Wow.
And it's really the Sufis settled there for a reason. They appreciated the spiritual energies and power embedded in by the ancients in those places. They recognized that. That's why they were living like a kilometer away. And there are all these layers and layers and layers of spirituality and healing available to all of us. I say jokingly that my tradition is from India, and I always that India is the place to go and all of that. And now I joke that I discovered India in Bulgaria.
Yeah, I believe you. I believe you. Amazing,
and
amazing. Thank you for sharing.
and my most recent discovery was actually last week.
Oh, do tell. We can stretch a bit.
Um, Let me just try to find the video on my phone. So my wife and daughter wanted to go to this really beautiful Bulgarian town that they preserved the old architecture. And it's incredibly beautiful just walking around town, all the museums they have and everything.
Koprištica?
Koprivnica, yes. And then I just pulled up Google Maps, and I get bored pretty fast fast in places like this. So, I just love being in nature and explore kind of like the more mystical aspects of any place where I'm at. And I saw something on the map about some rock formations. It's called Skum Sale or something like this. And then we go there, and it turns out this is a 75-acre megalithic complex
Oh wow. Okay.
with rock formation after rock formation. And each of them, I started feeling it a few kilometers before we entered it. It's massive, there are dozens of rock formations, and it's just incredibly beautiful. Let me just play you a little video.
Please do. Please do. Just
Holy moly.
yeah, indeed.
Again, you can't describe in words the sacredness and the energy was there. As I entered the place, one thing I noticed as I was going through these places, as you enter those places, they had a stamp they had a sign that you're entering a really sacred area. And I saw this in the Rhodope Mountains, which is southeast Bulgaria. And this particular megalithic complex is in the Balkan Mountains, in the middle of the Balkan Mountains, between the towns of Koprivnica and Strelcha. And as I entered it, I saw the stamp. And what's interesting, on the rock where they had the stamp, actually they had several stamps of different sizes. Probably indicates the importance of that particular site. There was a little cave where I think you were supposed to sit down and collect yourself before you enter the complex. And each rock formation is different, and each of them carries different energy, different resonance. That I'm going back on my own without my wife and daughter nagging me. How long we want to stay? Um, to spend some time on my own on the next this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and explore these resonances and see what and if any messages are there for me or anybody else to explore. And hopefully, just by being there, we can reactivate these places by me or other people or some of you that are gonna end up here, get inspired and come and join me or other people and explore these places in Bulgaria. Keep on activating them and begin to continue raising the consciousness of this beautiful planet and humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. Maybe I want to mention something. Yes, we were a communistic country, and a lot of us left, like me and you. Though we were not practicing religion, during the communistic times. Though even our 40 years, right? Yeah, communistic leader, even he was having a personal seer. She was more than a psychic. I mean, she could see Vanga. She could see the future. I mean, she predicted. Yeah, she made predictions almost until 2000, although she passed away like 50 years ago. So it was always, we were always very, spiritual is not the right word. We were very connected, let's put it that way. We always had healers. I mean, I remember even when I was a toddler and I was dislocating my shoulder very often. I must have been like 5 and 6, and there was this old guy who was a neighbor, and my arm would just hang like, absolutely like a piece of cloth, and then he would just smile at me and just touch me, and off I go. And healers, all sorts of healers, but it was we grew up with that, and it was not a big deal. And then of course a lot of us left the country. Then there were a lot of political transformations, and a lot of things got lost. But yeah, we as our roots were very soulful, really, always.
Always. I mean, Bulgarians, especially the older generations, they're very grounded. They're very earthy, and just the way they walk on the earth, they're really plugged in. And there's a lot of secrets in Bulgarian folklore. And one of the Bulgarian traditions, which comes from the Stranja Mountains, is people walk on coals. They
Yeah,
walk on fire,
on
etc.,
fire,
etc.
yeah, on hot
Just
coals, red bull, yeah.
I wanted to say, as we're wrapping up, if you want to know more about these places in Bulgaria, you can contact Irina or me. My Facebook profile is Shambu Heart, and I would invite all of us to finish today's session. And part of my gift and offering to you is a little meditation
Oh,
on in the heart,
thank you, much
a
appreciated.
meditation that trying to replicate the experience I had when I visited the womb cave, the first womb cave that I
Oh, you
spoke
do
about.
transmit. You do transmit all the time. Trust me, you
And
do transmit.
it's not me transmitting, it's she transmitting for whoever. And this meditation is also a practice in Kashmir Shaivism. And it's about absorbing all the Shaktis, all these disparate energies, whether it's the energies of the senses, the energies of our mind, and our thoughts, emotions, mixing it into one energy and letting go deep enough in that one energy that she takes us back to her source, which is pure consciousness and pure presence. So let's close our eyes for a few minutes. Connect with your breath. Allow your awareness of your own breath to pull you inside your body. Now become aware of your heart center in the middle of the chest. You're aware of your breath. You're aware of your heart center. Imagine your heart center is circular, like the top of a cooking pot. And imagine you're stirring the pot with a ladle. You're stirring the pot with the ladle of your awareness. As you're focusing on your breath, whenever any energy arises, you hear something, you smell something, a thought arises, a feeling or any sensation or an emotion arises, using the ladle of your awareness, stir it into the pot. Keep mixing it into the pot, which is your heart. You can visualize a little vortex, all these energies that arise in the moment, whether it's a sense, emotion, or thought. You're stirring it into the pot of your heart with your awareness. As you keep stirring those energies, feel, you can visualize how they become one energy, one essence. Deeply let go into that one energy, that one essence. Allow your sense of self to be absorbed into it. Now breathe into that one essence in the center of your heart. And as you exhale, feel that one essence, feel every part of your body, every cell of your body, every cell, every part of your being. Slowly open your eyes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was lovely, and what a nice way to to close. And yeah, I believe we should definitely make at least one more show. I would love to hear about your book, and yeah, for sure there is a lot to unpack there. So thank you very, very much. I just wanted to say that we'll be streaming on Friday starting next week, basically taking the space of Franco's Fridays. So that's about it. Next week we'll have a surprise guest. Thank you very, very much. Thank you everybody for watching. Be merciful. It's my first time in front of the camera, but I think we did quite well and it was extremely interesting, at least for me. And yeah, see you very soon. I don't know whether Todd will jump in again. Whether he's there, I don't. Oh yeah, hello. We don't hear you.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, that was fantastic. I thought that was great information. I wrote a couple of comments down. It's very important, this historical code and what you were talking about, brother, especially at the beginning, the true history that we're all going to come into awareness of, such as Tartaria, such as the history of so many of these countries and all the stuff that's stored like in the crystal caves and so many things. It's happening all over the world. I got chills just talking about it. But yeah, I hope to see you back on the network, on Irina's show, or maybe even Soul Speaks 5D, if you have time. But yeah, this is what it's all about. So thank you so much, both of you. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Much love to everybody. Many blessings.
Take care.